Now, if you learn only one thing from this talk, I want it to be this one thing. I want to reiterate this point so powerfully to you that it becomes impossible to forget. Because the number one mistake that people make who are pitching to any high authority publication is misunderstanding what it is that that publication does. And all high authority publications do the same thing in this way. What they do is not publish news, is not publish articles, is not publish interviews. These are all formats that we'll talk about a little later that these publications use. All high authority publications are in the same business, and they're in the business of telling stories. This is the one thing that you absolutely have to understand in order to successfully pitch to these publications. They're telling stories. Each publication has its own stories, its own areas of expertise that it's writing in, but fundamentally they're all involved with this same activity, storytelling. They're taking, whether it's events in the world, happenings within a specific industry, news events, fashion items, whatever it may be, and they're telling stories about it. And when you're making a pitch to these high authority publications, you're telling them what story you want to tell for them. To illustrate this point, I want to take a look at today's Guardian website, and I want to have a look at the kind of stories that are featured across the website and in the newspaper today. I mean, it is worth thinking a little bit at this point about the divide now between print publications and online publications. Even when I started professionally writing for high authority publications, print was still the gold standard. Websites were out there, but they were very often run by Saturday staff, by interns, and particularly at big established publications in print, they weren't taken seriously. That has completely changed now. Print publications are dying off left, right and centre. The website is the focus of really every single high authority publication out there, with perhaps the exception of some remaining glossy fashion magazines who still have a particular market for the kind of advertising that they provide. So if we just look at the front page here, we have some big stories. The Guardian is a serious newspaper. I probably don't need to reiterate that. It tells, on the whole, serious stories. So we're looking at stories about Donald Trump. We're looking at the war in Syria. These are clearly related stories, and Trump is the President of the United States of America, as unbelievable as that might seem, and the war in Syria is a very big part of his presidency. But if we look at some of the other sections in the Guardian, you see different kinds of really non-news stories. Let's look at opinion. So under the opinion section, you have a different approach to storytelling, but many of the same stories. Look at Syria, and you can see all the elements that have led to world wars. So you see this story here by the regular Guardian columnist Simon Jenkins. So the format has changed, but the story remains the same, and this is taking us towards one of the key points about the way that high authority publications deal with storytelling. Let's look under the culture section. Film. What's the secret to The Rock's success? Let's think about culture coverage. We have here a story about The Rock, but it's part of a bigger story, because over the course of a number of years, The Guardian has run many stories about The Rock, in the same way as it will run many stories about Donald Trump, and it will run many stories about the war in Syria. So stories that high authority publications cover are bigger than individual articles or interviews or opinion pieces. And this is the big thing to understand about storytelling in high authority publications. These stories are bigger than individual pieces, they're bigger than individual writers, and they're bigger than you. They're bigger than you, the person making the pitch.